Hello again, this is Dragon-esque4 coming at you, and this goes out to all my whip-following minions and my whip-enjoying people. Okay, I thought you might be interested in how to make a whip stand and also a tour of some of my whips. Now, the whip tour won't include some of the prototypes that I have that weren't successful, because I usually send those out to friends or families that want them as collectibles. And there's also going to be a couple of whips that I'm going to delete from the tour here because of the fact that I'm hoping to set a world record with a couple of these, so I'm not going to be showing them. But alright, here's what I did for the stand to get started here. I used, I guess this is electrical conduit. It's the half-inch, and what I did is I took a longer one for the center pipe, then I connected a connector to it, then I put a mid-size one here, put a T connector at the top, ran another medium long one, and I put an end cap on it, and I put some shower curtain hooks on there so it'll hook onto it. For the base, it's just another T-cap, another T connector going to another piece of pipe, another piece of pipe, and then there's a T connector on this end, a T connector on that end, with a pipe, so you're forming a T base, and then with an end cap on each one. So and you kind of have to use a steel or like a conduit or something, because I tried making these out of PVC and there was just so much weight to it that the PVC was bending, so you pretty much have to use steel or electrical conduit or something. That's if you have a lot of whips. If you have only one whip, you could probably do it out of PVC, but I got a lot of whips. And again, I'm not including a tour of the whips that were like prototypes that didn't work. There are a couple prototypes on here that did work, and in one form or another, and I also don't have like duplicate whips on here either. So I've made some duplicates of some of these, and some of them, aren't on here. But let's start the tour. Okay, here's a prototype I did for trying. I call it Thumper. It was a prototype. I wanted to try to make a double-tailed whip. It didn't work as per se as a whip, especially because of this heavy knot base. And it's not really good for pleasure whip either. But if you know what I mean by pleasure whip, but it does, for like a dungeon or something, for like a mistress or a master or whatever that wants to get attention from their submissive or slave. You can lump this on the floor. It makes a really good sound. It doesn't really crack, but yeah, that's for that. This one here, I call the Concrete Killer. As you can see, I made it out of industrial strength line with an industrial handle, and it has a telephone cord basically for the cracker, for the fall and cracker. I call it a Concrete Killer, and not that it cracks well. This is a prototype, but the fact that when I tried it out in my backyard, I actually broke some of the concrete because of the weight of this thing. It's just like insanely dangerous. Here I have a Prometheus whip, which is a prototype I'm still kind of in the works on to see if it's going to work or not. But I'm trying to make a stunt where I can light up a set of matches, and I'm still experimenting with it. It's not working so far, but haven't finished experimenting with it. Here I have the Water Nymph, and this. See, I make basically two different kinds of whips. I have what's called a reactor whip, which is usually a thicker whip, a little bit thicker handle. The lines are thicker, and I have wasp whips, and then I have like subcategories in those. Now the wasp whips are made out of 550 paracord. And then the subcategories, I have like the microbe, which is a really small, tiny one, and I have like minis, and there's a couple variations. There's a keychain one, But they're mainly based on two different styles. Okay, here is the water nymph. And the water nymph whip is a unique whip because I have a sponge attached on it. So you could dip this into water and you can make like all kinds of, you could see the water when you crack the whip. Over here I have Mechagodzilla 1. This is it was a prototype that failed in one sense, but it works in another sense. The thing is probably one of the heaviest whips ever. This has got to be like a 25-pound whip. It's extremely heavy, and I've got a real heavy-duty spring base on this. It was supposed to be a can cutter whip, and I have the chain going all the way through to the end, as you can see. And again, it failed because of the fact that it won't cut through a can because it's so heavy you can't really maneuver it. But it extremely loud crack. It's like the loudest crack I've ever heard. It's like a double-barreled shotgun going off right in point-blank range next to your ear. So, you know, on that sense it works. And also the fact that it's extremely heavy, so it's probably one of the heaviest whips ever. I have the Red Devil. This was a prototype before I developed the reactor whips and wasp whips. I tried to make a whip with an all-knot base. I had to reformat it a little bit. In the original format it didn't work, but now it works. It at least moves and it cracks, although it's a little sluggish, but still it was one of my first prototypes. And I have like a unique kind of a fall. The fall is real thick here and then it thins out. So, yeah, and I had to rework it. Once I reworked it, it worked, but it didn't work at first. Here's one of my first prototypes also. This is my steampunk. I have a metal handle on this, and what I did is I overweaved the thing to create a spine of sorts, and I like joined it also. And yes, it works, but it does crack well and it does maneuver, but the fact that it was really hard to make, you know, so that's why I call it a failed prototype, but it still works. Here was my Candy Kisses, another prototype that works even though it wasn't a good prototype. The end part here, the connector part, was way too thick. I like multi-wrapped it with duct tape. It's really thick. It looks like it's got a big piece of bubble gum on it. And then I tried to create another artificial spine here, and I like overwove it on both sides, so it does work, but it's kind of hard to make and it's kind of ungangly looking, so that's another failed prototype. Here is the Scottish Targe, another prototype. Again, I tried a different weave on it to try to get the spinal column before I learned how to do it. And I also had like cord weaving through the cord itself, which again makes it hard to make, so it was failed. And I call it Scottish Targe because I didn't fuse the end, so it has like this flared end on it, you know, from the rope sticking out. So it looks like a Scottish, something you would find on a kilt or something. Here I have Big Red. Big Red, I tried. It does work, and it's a good speed whip, but it doesn't crack well. And I tried like an elongated snout on it of sorts to, you know, and it does work, but it doesn't work well. Here is Mechagodzilla 2. This one actually works. Other than you can't really crack it well, but it does work excellent for can cutting. And what I did is I might or may not make a third one, but because I should have put the chain a little down further because I have it like in the middle of the fall. Yeah, but it does work excellent. And if you see my video, you'll see that it works really good. This is Casper. He's a reactor whip. It's a combination glow whip, and it's an all white whip with a heavier cord, so it's good for targeting. Doesn't really crack well though. This one here is Triad, which is a reactor whip, but I use a shorter core piece, and it works pretty decent. It's decent, like a first prototype with a shorter core piece. Here is Crypto and Pox. These are glow whips that have black lines, black and green. It is black and green lines with the glow cord going through it. I've never really posted a video on that because I don't really have anywhere I can use it in. It's too big to use in my house, and outside there's too many lights. Here's Swamp Thing and Slimer. These are a dual pair. I pretty much did a match set in two different, on this one I've got the green with red. On this one I have the green with black. And it's pretty much a match set for doing dual whip things. This here is Fireworks, another reactor whip. I did a little bit of a different knot base on this one. I put like a double knot near the connector piece. That's the main difference. It works pretty decently. Here's my only snake whip I've ever tried to make. Worked out pretty good. I wove a knot handle into it. And it's like a self-sustaining whip, and it's hard to make, and I'm not really big on snake whips, so this is the only one I've ever made, and I probably won't make another. This is called Long John, also known as R. It's the Pirate Whip. This is my longest whip. This is a 16-footer. Here's my safety gloves for when I'm doing double whips so I don't get blisters on my hands, my safety goggles. Here is my Reflections one. This is a wasp whip, and this one here has cord that's reflective in it. The only trouble is it doesn't reflect well, and and you have to get almost in a perfect lighting for it to be seen. And I also did like a tail notch on this one with an overweave over the handle, so that one was kind of different. Here is the Red Canary. This is a wasp whip. It's all yellow basically. Not much difference there. Here's the Black Canary. Black Canary has a smaller spring core, and it's a little bit light in my opinion. So it does work, but it's a little light. Here's Hidden Agenda, which is a camouflage whip. Basically that's one is a wasp whip, I'm sorry. Here's the Mechanic. I tried a different handle. I actually used a real wrench to make the handle, and I did a little bit of a different weave, and it has a different knot base at the end. So I kind of did an over tie knot base, and then I did a weave knot base over here in order to give it something different. It works pretty decently. It's a little hard to work with because of weight, so you can't really do like hand transfers well. Here's another match set of wasp whips. I have the Squash Wasp here, and then there's the Pumpkin Wasp. I matched them up as best I can with two matching colors. This one has the orange with yellow, and then this one is yellow with the orange cord. Here is Candy Cane. This is a wasp whip. This one worked out really good, and it's good for doing like leg pops and leg spins. Cause I tried a unique knot base on the handle. I really don't know how to do a Turk's head knot well, but I tried weaving in a knot, and it works really good because of the weight on the handle part. Makes it so it's good for spins. And I did an overweave wrap with a wrap over on the end too. That one works. Here's two different targeting whips I use mainly for targeting stuff. This is the Mini Me right here, which is a shorter whip good for like indoor targeting. And this is the Black Mamba. They're more or less made the same. These are reactor whips, but the cord, because the cord is thicker on both of these, they strike really well on a target. This here is, I didn't name this one. Okay, this one here was a prototype that it does work. It's more like kind of like a short sleigh whip, I guess you would call it. And I have a pull chain core in this. I tried that. It worked. But I really don't like working with the pull chain cord. Now here's a micro whip, basically good for indoor use, very small, as you can see. This one here is a bought whip. I didn't make this one. This is kind of an Indiana Jones leather style. It has a ball bearing handle on it. Here's a cheap whip that I got for $1, but it's a well-made one though. It's a leather. This one here is a Santa whip. I call it a Santa whip because it looks like it's candy cane colored, and it looks like something Santa would probably use in his sleigh. And it's a short whip, and it has and you know, my cat likes to play with it. It's got little fluffy ends on it and stuff. Well, that's the tour, and I hope you enjoyed it. Again, it doesn't include all of the whips that I've made. I've also, oh yeah, I've got one that I've also, for special use, I call the Da Vinci. And I haven't done a video on that yet, but until I do, I'm not showing that one off. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the tour. Bye.